Hey guys, it's Professor Fossum here. I looked over your rough drafts for Essay 1. I think that a couple of you do need to go back and look at the slides for how to write a body paragraph. I'd also like you to double check about those intro paragraphs. It looks like you guys are having a really hard time making sure that that thesis says exactly what your whole paper is going to be about, right? So what I've done is I've pulled an example so that I can kind of show you what I'm looking for. So first, here we have our title, right? Remember that the title is kind of like your first hook, right? It shows the audience or the reader kind of what you're talking about, gives them a hint, and it also should grab their attention a little bit. So it reads, a liberal arts degree, and where do you plan to use that exactly, right? Very depressing. Anyway, so they go on to have their hook, right? They're talking about money, and then they kind of bridge into their speech, right? So all of this is their hook. It's grabbing my attention. It's making me want to read. It's making me think about how all these things can maybe apply to me. They go on to write their really clear thesis, right? David Foster Wallace successfully conveys his argument of why liberal arts degree is beneficial through his use of ethos, logos, and pathos, right? So clearly this person is talking about Aristotelian argumentation, and they clearly state all the parts, right? Furthermore, because they have ethos first, I'm going to expect to read an ethos body paragraph first. Logos is second, so that'll be their second body paragraph, and pathos will be their third. The first body paragraph reads, David Wallace exudes credibility for a few impactful reasons, right? So here they promised us that we would be talking about ethos first, and here we are talking about credibility. And they say like he does a really good job by saying a few impactful reasons, right? So they're not just saying like, he does a good job. They're saying here are a couple impactful ways he shows that he's credible. So first, they write about who he is and where he comes from and a little bit of his background, and that's always really helpful. Second, they transition into a quote. He then goes on to show this when he says, quote, think about it, there's no experience you have that you are not the absolute center of, right? So he goes on to transition into this quote. Then he spends the next couple sentences, right, showing why this little quote backs up the topic sentence. So I've seen a couple people kind of throwing in quotes here and there, or ending a paragraph with a quote. You don't want to do that. Your quotes are supposed to act as your evidence, right? In your topic sentence, you say, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about. With the quote, you're saying, here's my evidence. The bulk of each body paragraph should be you explaining how that evidence supports that topic sentence. So you need to show your reader how they need to be interpreting the information that you're providing, right? Because I can read a quote and I can interpret it in a different way than you do. Second body paragraph, they transition from one idea to the next, right? So we do want to make sure that we have a transition or summary sentence at the end of each body paragraph. This person went a step further and they kind of transitioned with this topic sentence. So they say, although Wallace uses exceptional logos, his appeal, or exceptional ethos, his appeal to logos, right, which is the next one, was somewhat lacking within his speech. So here, they're not saying he does a bad job with logos. What they're saying is that there's not a lot of logos, right? So there are these different ways that you can think about to kind of address whether or not the person is effectively using an appeal or effectively using Rogerian argumentation, right? You don't have to say it's good or it's bad. It's someone lacking, right? There isn't enough of it. It's a little bit vague. It's not clear to the reader, right? Do all of that. So if we look, they have a couple quotes, right, within this body paragraph. They have one here. Look how short that is. Your quotes should all be 1 to 2 lines, maybe 3 maximum. That's it. You do not need a lot of room to show what you mean. Again, the bulk of their paper is analyzing that quote and showing me why it backs up what they're saying to begin with, right? If we scroll down, they have their works cited, right? They've called it works cited, and they've alphabetized it. They have their hanging left indent. They've not just shown where they got the speech, but they've also cited their statistic that they used in that hook. So if you use any information, you need to make sure you're citing it. One thing that we do with these papers is we submit them through Turnitin. And if your ideas or your words aren't cited and they're not on your works cited page and they don't have in-text citations, I'm going to take that as plagiarism. Right? So you need to make sure that you're being really cautious of where you're getting information and whether or not you're citing it. You guys have about 5 days before these papers are due, which is quite a lot of time. Right? So I really suggest that a lot of you either come into office hours or go to the writing center because some of these papers really do need a lot of work. Now, I left extensive comments on all of your papers, and for the most part, some of you are on the right track. Some of you still aren't speaking to the prompt, so you want to make sure you go back and look at that. But make sure that you're writing according to all the things that we've talked about in class thus far. Make sure that your works cited page and make sure that your paper itself are in MLA 8 format, right? Anything that I've shared with you or anything you learned in 101, you're required to utilize and sort of show in 104. So please make sure you're doing that. If you have questions, you can email me and I will go ahead and upload another video in maybe a week or two.